Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about GDPR compliancy and what does that mean for like US and Canadian companies that aren't actually in the EU. And especially if you don't have any actual EU customers or citizens as your customers. Do you have to even worry about this GDPR thing? Short answer, no. Long answer, yes, you really do. All right, and with that, I'm Kurt Hamel. You can check me out at kurthamel.com. I publish a new video every week covering a new topic in tech and web marketing. But yeah, I can find me in Detroit, Michigan anytime. Come say hi. But let's get started. So what is GDPR? It is the General Data Protection Regulation from the EU. And that's why we're shortening it to GDPR, because that is a mouthful. And really, what does that mean? So this is a new regulation for EU citizens that's going to convert data protection and stuff. They've had these laws in the book for a while, but they're modernizing them because with smartphones and location tracking and better AI, tracking is at a higher level than ever before. And the EU, frankly, has a much stricter stance on privacy than the US or a lot of other countries in the world. So basically, what happened to the EU is they got all these. They're like, hey, this is not cool. You don't want to be knowing. People's data needs to be safe. So they passed this new law, and yeah, now it's starting on May 25th. I'm pretty sure Friday, May 25th is when it's officially in. So if you haven't updated and checked stuff out, you better talk to your marketing gurus, making sure they're ready to go. But another thing I wanted to bring up, you don't actually have to worry too much about this. First off, most of us are just either using one of the big tech companies to do the tracking and data storage stuff anyways. So most of us are either using Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, stuff like that, and we don't actually keep and store a lot of the data ourselves. So with that, you don't really have to worry because they are updating all their stuff themselves because they don't want to get sued. But on that account, they are pushing a lot of stuff towards you. If there's any data collection you've been doing and keeping around, especially EU citizens, you better get rid of it. You can be fined a lot of money, like millions of dollars, but 4%, just think about 4% of your yearly earnings. That could probably, for a lot of smaller firms, is what it will be. But so if you are locally storing data and stuff, make sure you're getting rid of that old stuff. Check out the compliance stuff. But really what I want to get into today is what this means for US companies and Canadian companies and stuff and other countries that are outside of the EU but interact with the EU. Or don't. If you don't have any customers from the EU, why would this affect you at all? Well, number one thing, it affects Google and it affects Microsoft, which owns Bing. So those are the two biggest search engines for most English-speaking countries. And with that, all English-speaking countries. So Google is scared about getting sued. They can get sued a lot, like billions of dollars for this if they aren't strict in compliance. They've been updating all their tracking, all their Google Analytics stuff, Google Adwords and everything. Facebook has been too. So they're changing everything. And if you're breaking any rules, they are going to get you off their search engine like that. They don't want to be dealing with you. They will cut you from their Google AdWords accounts. They will shut down your account if they find you breaking any of these rules, even if you are not interacting with the EU or EU citizens, because they are a global company and they have a ton of business in the EU, and they could get fined so much money. They're basically pushing all this burden onto you. So if you are not complying with this stuff, even if you're not interacting with the EU anymore, it's basically the new law of the web from all the big tech companies. So Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, they're all going to be following these rules because they are global companies. They get tons of business from the EU, a solid chunk of their business. They don't want to lose out on this or even worse, get fined. So with that, that's what you really got to keep in mind. It's not that your direct customers are going to be affected or even you're ever going to interact with an EU citizen. Some people, you might be running a small law firm in the state of Michigan or in the Midwest, and have never had an EU citizen as a client or talked to business in the EU or anything like that. But that data you're retaining, you got to get rid of that. If you're really just using Google Analytics for storage right now, they're about to wipe everything unless you go in there and change some stuff specifically. So for most companies, you don't have to worry about this in the US. But and when we're talking about this data, we're talking about even your IP addresses, location data, which you've been using for so long. And this also goes down to even like sexual orientation, health data, and political opinion. So if you're like a health firm or a political firm, these rules really can impact you a lot. I think it's great, and it's still pretty loose. We can still track a lot of data. We can still get a lot of it's not going to affect most people's day-to-day unless you're a giant analytics company. But then they're going to be dealing with that. Normally, we as smaller businesses hire out these companies anyways. So we're going to be really looking at them to change stuff up. But especially if you're talking, make sure your website's up to date basically, and your Google Analytics. Talk to your tech guys, talk to your online marketing gurus, the ones you hire, your website guys. Just make sure everything's good. Update maybe your privacy policy on your website, stuff like that. But the biggest thing is that it's not going to actually affect you. You're never going to get a fine really from the EU if you're just a US company that's just working in the US with US clients, but it will affect your SEO search ranking. So you're going to go, if you are found out to be breaking any of this stuff, and you'll even get kicked off of like Facebook ads and Google Adwords. They've said that if they find your company or business breaking any of these rules, you're out. They're not even going to be like letting you a second chance. They don't want to get fined literally billions of dollars. So they're really pushing that burden onto you. And with all that, this is just a quick little update because I know this is a big thing right now. But yeah, so if you're in the US or Canada or anything, expect some laws like this to happen. Maybe not right away, but expect eventual privacy laws like this to come in anyways. So we're just kind of prepping for the future. But it really shouldn't be a big deal for most of us. Unless you are strictly keeping your own clients' data on your own servers, then I would actually be worried and talk with your who's ever running those servers. Make sure they're wiped, really read into the accordance policies, have an expert talk to you about that. But for most of us, it really just comes to do with, on WordPress, they've actually pushed out an automatic updates with privacy policies that are pretty much standard dogma to adopt. Just make sure people have to opt in more. You need more opt-ins for tracking. And once again, this isn't because you're going to get sued. It's because you're going to get kicked off of Google and you're going to get kicked off of Facebook, really, is what's going to happen if you're not following this strictly. A lot of smaller places will probably fly into the web. And once again, if you're not doing any tracking or anything already, you really don't have to worry about it. But most of us are. We want to know where people are coming from, who's using our site, are they returning customers, stuff like that. And it's really just about keeping that info and what info you're keeping and retaining, and you have to let people know now. It used to be before you could just do a general opt-in. Now you have to be specific and in simple language, but most of the programs we currently use have been updating on their own. They've been letting know about this for about a while now. So, but just make sure everything's updated this week, because I'm sure we will see some unintended consequences from firms that don't update and stuff like that. We really don't know exactly what's going to happen. We know what the EU is going to do, but we really don't know exactly how Google is going to throw down the hammer, or Facebook. Facebook might not do anything. They're just kind of running wild right now. But Google itself, we don't know. So just to be safe, you really want to be in compliance, even if you are not interacting with EU companies at all, or EU citizens. If you are strictly only interacting with your own country, you still want to be compliant just because Google wants you to be compliant now. So they're going to be treating the whole world like it's EU Compliance Day, unless they're specialized markets. So, yep, that's pretty much it. And just one last thing for a checklist at the end. How does your organization ensure user transparency and control? That means, like, are you explaining to your users the types of data that you collect and for what purposes? Are you sure that your org or company has the right consent places, forms, checklists where that are needed under GDPR? And you can look all this up through the policies. It's everywhere on the internet right now. If you have any questions, just shoot me a question too. And do you have all the relevant consent across all your ad platforms? So especially if you're using not Google or Facebook's ad platforms or Microsoft's, if you're using any smaller tracking and ad platforms, really make sure you're talking with those companies and those providers that they are compliant, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to get in trouble for that. I mean, they are too, but it'll hurt you. And does your business have the right systems to record user preferences and consents? Because this is a new one. We got to make sure it's all individually checked. Some people could check one box and not the other. how they let you go through, because you have to really specifically go on each consent part now. Or just don't track as much either. That's another option. And finally, how are you going to show this to regulators, especially if you're a larger business? If a regulator questions you or Google questions you especially, it's really going to come down to Google being mad at you. How do you show them that you've met these principles and guidelines, basically, for GDPR? So even if you're in the US, think you got to hit all these points because of SEO and Google rankings and using stuff like Google Adwords. They will boot you off. They have said that, and they're going to do it. They're serious. They get in a lot of trouble. But that's about it. Besides that, if you're on WordPress, they've been publishing some stuff on the newest updates of WordPress. You could just add those privacy forms in, add a link on the bottom of your page, have the little cookies, let everyone know they're doing cookies. People have been doing that for a bit anyways, but you're going to have to get a little more specific nowadays if you're doing more specific tracking than general stuff. Once again, this also comes down to how much are you tracking users on your website. I do a lot, so I'm going to have a new update ready about to go. It's going to be a little more. I'm also taking a few things away. Like, I honestly don't really care that, I didn't even know I was tracking like the sex of people, like, you know, male, female, or others, whatever sexuality and stuff is. Google has, I don't really care about that. I'm just going to take that away. I don't need to ask anyone about that. But yeah, so just create guidelines, especially if you're using a lot of tracking plugins or stuff like that. Just make sure everything's got to be up to date. So just update, especially a lot of things have been rolling out updates. You've been getting a ton of emails blasted to you from every little subscription you're on saying our new privacy policy, our new privacy blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so if you do an email list, just send all that out, whatever data you give. But yeah, that's the basics of GDPR compliance for US and Canadian companies. Hopefully you guys are ready to go. If you have any questions, shoot them down below. Let me know, and like and subscribe. I do this every week. No longer doing the live webinars, as you can tell. Just doing these recordings, so that's great. Also, if you want to be on my email list or anything, check out me at kurthamel.com. And before you go, I have a question. Do you think the USA is going to implement a similar version of GDPR? Why or why not? Comment that below. Let me know. I would like to see everyone's opinions on that. All right, thanks, and I will see you guys next week. All right, have a good day.